just before the Second World War, there was a historic tournament. The AVRO 1938 tournament marked the end of the era of Alekhine and Capablanca and the dawn of the new era of the Soviet dominance with Mikhail Botvinnik and so on. The tournament was won by Paul Keres, who was sort of one of the best players in the world who never became a world champion, and Reuben Fine from the US that later gave up his chess career. He was a very, very strong player. I was a big fan of him when I was younger. I think he became a psychoanalyst and withdrew from chess, even though he was probably the best player in the world at the time in 1938. On third place, we had a young Mikhail Botvinnik, the patriarch of Soviet chess, and he won 2 great games against Capablanca and Alekhine. Alekhine did okay. It was still 8 years before his death. He had just become world champion in 37 again by beating Max Euwe. He got 7 points, which was decent, 50%. But Capablanca finished below 50% with 6 points, and well, this is not usual. He was in the 7th place out of 8 players. So he was an old player and definitely past his prime. It's a bit sad to see a virtuous player like Capablanca getting that he's just no longer can follow the best players. We're gonna see this game, and it actually is also a game that Botvinnik used to demonstrate that a computer could play chess if they find his great resource later in the game. But let's get on with it. It is a very nice game, I think, and it's a must-known game. You have to know this game. It's a classic. It's the Nimzo Indian. Black sort of pins the knight, and this is played throughout the ages since I think 1920s. The Nimzo Indian has been a part of the world scene, and I think it will always be here. It's a very interesting opening. I think the E3 system is the strategically most complex line of play, and I like this both for black and white. It's just fun and interesting to play. D5 is considered a little bit premature. I think castling is the main line these days due to this move A3, since it's and white goes into a same structure where he forces the bishop to exchange. If you go back, you lost 2 tempi, because A3 is definitely a good move for white. So you have to take and damage white's center, but here the double pawns are not a weakness, because one of them will disappear due to this pawn here, right? So, but white is behind in development, and well, this is still played a lot. I think for many years, maybe due to this game, it was considered clearly better for white. But nowadays it's not that clear. But I still would prefer to be white. But you have to, if black knows what he or she is doing, then it's definitely not clear. Castle and bishop a6, and I think the best move here would be f3. And white's plan is very simple: f3 and e4, building a strong center, opening it up. He cannot. This bishop here is so disturbing that unfortunately white would love to keep his white squared bishop, but it's not possible. But when the pawn comes out, this little fella here will be very strong, and also black's knight will be kicked. They will not be able to find a safe spot to sit in, and this is what knight needs. But at that time, this position was very new. This kind of structures was not well understood, not even by strategic genius like Botvinnik. So he took here, and that's not considered the best move, I think, at the moment. And he played this move, which makes no sense at all, because it's only when you there is pressure on d4 that having the bishop here makes sense. So so this was simply a mistake, to be honest. Queen d7, getting connection between the rooks. And I think actually black is probably fine here. a4, rook e8, queen d3, and here Capablanca makes a clear strategic mistakes. And I think they probably all thought that with the knights on the board, you want a close position. The problem is the bishops like a close position if they are sort of stable in a dynamic way, like this one. Or white has a very unsettling plan here with f3 and e4, just waiting to push and start an attack on the king. He played c4, and that's simply wrong. This is just a bad move. You can't make this move here. Yes, you get a majority on the queen side, but all the pressure in the center is gone. So he should have done something to prepare for e4, rook a8, or he had to move the knight, so knight c7 or something like that. Queen c2, rook knight b8, here, and I think it dawned on Capablanca that if this move you should definitely not take, because then this one will be out of the game probably forever. Black will be able to play around it and just sit on the white squares, and this is a disaster, and you will lose. I've tried this with white, that you hope this bishop will become good, and if your opponent is strong, it will not become good. It will just be like a big fat pawn. But after this move, knight e4, white of course plays knight h1, use the whole board. The plan is simple, to go here and e4, and black is busted. The knight will come back and into the game from h1, and it can stand on f2 or d3, so knight e4 doesn't help. So knight a5, f3, and it's of course clear that e4 will arrive, and it's going to arrive with a lot of force. So black is in trouble here. He's winning a pawn, nice for him. e5, and here it's when you are playing an attack, it's very important to pay attention to the opponent's defensive possibilities. And here Botvinnik was ready for the task. Black has an idea. If it was black to move, what would he do? Yeah, he would play this move, and getting the knight. Either he will exchange queens, which is kind of nice with when you're a pawn up, or he will settle on d3 and make a lot of disturbance in white's camp. So, but the knight here is bad if it can't go to c5. So just moving the queen is very good, and white is ready to push them all the way up and killing. And these people here are out of the game at the moment. And he's afraid of knight. Maybe he was afraid of this, but it also creates a target. Or the plan was to answer this with this move, which makes a lot of sense. Trying to keep the position closed, but it is too late due to this move. And white is having a serious attack. And well, Capablanca was a very strong player, and he tried to find a defense, which by sort of exchanging everything. If rook here, you would just play g5, and there's nothing else. And if you take, well, you can just take back with the pawn, and the queen can't take here because of the rook is hanging, and this one is out of the game at the moment also. But these two here are also spectators. Anyway, there is a very strong move for white. Rook e6, pushing the rook, attacking the knight. It takes, I think it's forced. King g7, and we see that there are some problems on the dark squares in the black camp. So of course the white queen is trying to get into this queen here, going back, attacking the pawn. We are fast approaching a very, very famous position. Queen e5. The pin is annoying. And what to do here? White is already threatening something like this, and getting more pieces into the attack. Queen e7. And here white found a great resource, thinking, and I think Ogard's approach with what's the worst placed piece and what's my opponent's idea and so on be helpful here. Improving your worst position, your worst piece is a good idea. What is the worst piece? Well, it's the bishop. So in this famous position, the great Mikhail Botvinnik played this. I think this is his most famous move, to be honest. Also, because even though Alekhine stayed world champion for the next 8 years, due to Botvinnik beating both Alekhine and Capablanca in the same tournament in '38 in AVRO, and none of them finishing in the top, it was clear their time was over. The pendulum had swung and left them behind in the dust. Of course, Alekhine clung on to the title for 8 more years due to the Second World War, but his time was over. You have to take, otherwise bad things gonna happen. But it's still gonna happen. Check. Attacking the knight twice. And attacking the king. And you can't take with the knight due to the pin. So you have to take with the pawn. And this is a nice trick to remember. And by the way, Botvinnik, he was very good strategically in positions he knew. He had a sort of scientific approach to the game. So, and he specialized in weird strategic situation where there also was some tactical things going on, because tactically he was pretty strong as well. Anyway, check, and of course if you go to e8, you're mate in 2 moves. So you have to go the other way, and e7. And it's important to stay here. Of course, the threat is made in 2 different ways. So black will try to give perpetual check. And I'm sure Botvinnik, when he played knight bishop h3, he has calculated all this. The check there was, of course, obvious. Let's see. Here, king goes. And you have to look at all the checks. And of course, you go back, he goes back. And if you go to f3, he takes and play king f7. So you have to go forward. So this was all known. The threat is like before, this move and this move. And where are the checks? There is only one check. And here comes the real cool point. King takes h5 with the great idea that if you play this, then this, and black is helpless against the next move being e8 mate with the rook, right? Okay, queen e2, check. Now the pawn is gone, check. And the checks have been exhausted. You see Raul, Capablanca resigned, and a new era was about to dawn, the era where the Soviets were dominating chess, and did so until a very well-known American named Fischer came along. This has been GM Talks. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching.